Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to talk about our collaboration with Every Tribe Coffee. Today, we've got the medium roast Sumatra Gallo brewing in our French press, and it's a great way to start the morning. It's rich, earthy coffee with notes of cinnamon and cedar, and the French press really brings out that full-bodied flavor. So if you enjoy a bold, smooth cup of coffee, this one's definitely worth trying. But what I appreciate most about Every Tribe Coffee is not just what's in the mug, but it's the mission behind it. Every Tribe Coffee partners with mission-focused coffee growers around the world, using coffee cultivation and business as a platform for ministry, community development, and sharing the love of Christ. And with every bag sold, a portion goes to support Mekong Multiply, which is a Christian missions organization helping equip and send national missionaries to reach unreached people groups throughout Southeast Asia. So if we've been making our way through the flavor pack that they shared with us, and it's a fun way of experiencing coffees from different countries and learning the unique story behind each one. So if you're looking for a great way to explore specialty coffee while supporting the gospel work around the world, I can't recommend the flavor pack from Every Tribe Coffee enough. You can find the link to Every Tribe Coffee in the show notes. So now grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's have our conversation. Welcome to The Table, a podcast from Fellowship West. Here at The Table, we believe that faith grows best in community, and that some of the most meaningful conversations happen not just in pews or pulpits, but around tables. This is where we pause, reflect, and dive deeper into the truths that shape us. Each episode will share stories, reflections, and have honest conversations about life, faith, and what it means to follow Jesus together. Whether you're a part of our West family, just exploring faith, or somewhere in between, you have a seat here. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's have a conversation. So I don't know about you guys, but to me, August sometimes feels a little bit like New Year's, sometimes even more like New Year's than January does. School starts, sports begins, church ministries kick off in a new way, groups kick back off, vacations are over, life speeds up, and then before we know it, it's Thanksgiving. And I don't know if it comes from working in student ministry for as long as I did, but like I kind of orient myself where August is kind of the beginning of the year in a lot of ways. And every year I feel like people say the same thing. Yeah, life's just been crazy.
Yeah.
So today we want to pause before everyone's calendars get completely full and ask a different question. Not how can we get more done, but who are we becoming? Because the rhythms that we establish this fall won't just shape our schedule, they'll shape our hearts. So when we think about the busyness that often comes this time of year, what are some of you guys' initial thoughts? What are some of the ways that you've seen that either in your own life or throughout your time in ministry?
Well, first of all, I do want to say happy birthday to Fellowship West.
That's true.
12 years ago today, we launched there at our Bonner Springs location. And as I was driving here, thinking about that and about this topic, I remember that summer where, we would talk about seasons of busyness. And I remember that summer was one of extreme busyness.
Sure.
It was getting ready. It was renovating a building. It was 7 days a week. And I remember having to be just super intentional to try to carve out time to be with the family, to see them, to be around. It was like 7 days a week, 12-hour days plus, for like weeks on end. And then out of that, trying to find those kind of those times of pause moments, And I think still we easily hit those things. In summer, it's like we have camps and we have VBS and we have all these other things. And so I think it's you have to be intentional to find this kind of rhythm moments of pause and rest.
Yeah.
I'd say definitely, even like you mentioned, the month of August is like super busy for a lot of people because you're considering, all right, we're getting ready to start the school year. We're also finishing up summer. So we want to make the most of those last few weeks in that month of August. So I think a lot of people are trying to plan ahead while also making the most of their time.
Mm-hmm.
And that just gets everyone super busy. So when you're in that midst of that busyness, but you're also trying to plan out the rest of your life, it just naturally feels like you're going to keep yourself busy because it's just how you've been the whole summer. So
I also think that sometimes we have a tendency to view busyness as almost like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
The number of times that I've found myself, someone asks like, "Oh, how have you been?" And my response is, "Oh, keeping busy," or something along those lines.
And even if you're not, you feel tempted to say that because like,
Yeah.
you don't want people to think that you're lazy and not doing stuff. Yeah.
And I think that's such a weird dichotomy
Yeah.
that our culture has taught us, that like the opposite of busy is lazy.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true.
No.
It
And
can be.
busyness is not the goal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I think that our culture values productivity so
Yeah.
much that it almost becomes an idol in a lot
It
of
does.
ways. I love this idea that your calendar is in a way discipling you.
Yeah.
Every yes that you say to something is saying no to something else,
Yep.
and every yes is shaping us into someone. Whether we realize it or not, our calendars reveal what we truly value. So as we kind of think along those lines, how do you feel like we can see the way that our calendar reflects our priorities or the pressures that we put on ourselves?
The time is, you can always get more money in one way or another.
Sure.
You can't get more time. And I think our time really does show what we value.
Time keeps on ticking.
It does. Tick, tick, ticking away. And DC talk reference there, I think. But it's a thing that keeps going. And I think it really does show what we love, what we value, because it's what we invest in. And I think it really kind of shows our heart. Are we, focused on making money, on what people think of us, on finding success? Are we sacrificing our family on the altar of whatever else, whatever this thing is? And I think our calendar really does show really where our heart's love truly is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For me, one of the pastors that I've really looked up to and like actually learned a lot about honoring time and scheduling. His name was Pastor Greg Scott. He was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And one of the things that he taught a lot of us that were learning under him at the time was his calendar. He always tried to keep it open for his family, but he intentionally planned that time out so it would reflect to others. Because I think a lot of people, when they see your calendar, they have a way to see into your schedule.
Sure.
Yeah.
If they don't know that you're prioritizing these things, they'll just kind of assume that you're free and you're available.
Mhm.
So they'll try to get you in on their calendar or invite you to stuff. And it can be even harder to say no in ministry or just even in community when you care about these people and you want to be connected to them.
Sure.
So he had a really cool standard of, hey, whenever I hit 7:00 at night on my calendar for work, for home, for everything, it says time with family.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't be able to reach me. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And if there's an emergency, there's ways that you can get a hold of me. You can come knock on my door and I'll be able to address something.
Yeah.
But if it's something where it's like a text or a phone call or email, it can wait while I'm prioritizing these times of rest that I'm going into.
Sure. I think that kind of brings up a good question for us all to kind of ponder. If someone looked at your calendar for the next month, what would they assume is the most important things to you? And honestly, like there's been seasons in my life where I can look at that and be a little convicted.
Yeah.
About what my calendar reveals about me. Whether it's like my physical, like what I actually have written down, or just like
How you spend your time?
Yeah, if I were to log how I spend my
Yeah.
time. A lot of times what that would reveal as the most important things is not what I would typically say are the most important things. Because I know for me, like I have a tendency to emphasize tasks, and we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Like I take great pride in getting things done and in being the person that that is kind of the do it all guy, where I'm always looking for jobs to do and things to accomplish, and there's some good aspects to that.
Yeah.
But whenever I allow that to become my focus more than quiet still rest time with my family or time with congregation members, like that's problematic. What habits have you implemented in your life that you feel like have had the greatest impact on balancing out your schedule as throughout seasons that tend to be a little bit busier?
Well, I think in terms of the family side of things, things are busy. In fact, the older my kids have gotten, the more activities they have, the larger the restraints are on them. My daughter is working a little bit now. My wife's working in the evenings. My daughter Charlotte has a high school cheer. My son has basketball and all these things. And so for us, it's been intentional as a family. We've set aside, hey, these are the moments. So we like calendar out in the laundry room. We have a physical calendar in there. We write everything in there, and we block out time of, hey, this is our family time. This is our time of rest. This is our time away. Because otherwise, if we learn if we don't do that, we'll get to the end of the month. We're like, man, where was that family time of us all together, where we rested, where we were doing these things? And so for us, it's writing on a physical calendar where we can all see, hey, this is what we have going on, but here's the things we're working toward that we're going to have together, these moments of rest and togetherness. And, for us tonight is one of those nights. It's going to be kind of a double feature movie night, snacky dinner, doing the things, playing some card games. And we already have that on the calendar for this evening because of just how busy things are.
Yeah.
I know for our family, we have a really routine week. So a lot of it is we have our Sundays. We know after church, usually we're going to be prioritizing a moment with family, whether that's a dinner or a lunch with extended family on my side. And then on Monday nights, we take that as our reset for the whole family. So we go to Sam's Club every Monday and we get pizza or hot dog or pretzel, and we do our grocery shopping. And that just is such a good reset for us because we know hey, Monday nights that's our day to reset as a family and just have fun and shop.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday nights, we try to prioritize my wife's side of the family. So that is our start to the week is my family. Then we go into us as a whole family for just our unit. And then with my wife's. And that has set us up for more success than we could have hoped for. So then when we go into the rest of our week, he kind of frees us up to have that flexibility and that opportunity to go and do things, whether it's trying to think if it's a family moment that we want to add in for the weekend or something. Those moments are what we try to protect a lot.
Sure.
And a lot of times we know that something's going to come up on a Monday or Sunday night or even Tuesdays that will change our regular weekly routine. But since we prioritized it so much, it gives us that leeway over our year to be able to say yes to other things.
Sure. I love that. And I think that's a great example of how these times of rest and being intentional with the family can also be productive. I think that there's merit to inviting your kids and your family into the normal rhythms of life, like grocery shopping, or our family. One of the things that we like to do together is just run errands, and sometimes yesterday I was getting my oil changed, dropped the car off, and Melissa and the kids picked me up, and we just went and walked around the Legends, and we didn't buy anything. We just looked at a couple stores, and but that was a nice time together, and it doesn't necessarily have to be anything like crazy. It can be something pretty mundane and normal.
Yeah.
Ben, what about you? Rhythms that you feel like have helped shape your seasons of busyness in a positive way?
Yeah. So this is it's something that kind of in March of this year, Haley and I kind of did some work together and realized that, with the help of a friend actually, realized that kind of we were all in on several things that were taking up a lot of our time, and we had talked about the practice of Sabbathing, of setting aside a whole day for a while, but just couldn't pull the trigger on it. Man, it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to just actually give that up.
Sure.
We only have 7 in a week, and that feels like a lot. And so, but we did. We started it. It was kind of great at first, and then it got really difficult, and then it got better again, and it kind of cycles. But what we found was that we kept figuring out all these things that we were having frustrations with, and it all came back to time, to rest, to to just being frustrated with this or that was. It was stuff that was kept colliding in our schedules and in our routines. And so we ended up, setting aside Friday dinner through Saturday lunch and Sabbathing. And so what we do is we stop, we rest, we delight, and we worship. And so there are elements of all four of those things that we incorporate. And, it's a rhythm in our week. It helps us to not forget about God.
Sure.
As, crazy as that sounds, I think we get busy with our schedules and we have this task and that task and this kid's activity. And we just get bogged down. And like even Sunday mornings, for us and for other people, I think can be a box that we check.
Sure.
And so, we rest from our work and from our productivity, knowing that God is working. We'll sing a song together, we'll do prayers together, we'll read specific things. We eat meals that are out of the ordinary that are during those times, whether it's something like snacky dinner, Matt brought up that we don't do a lot, or it's something like, a really good barbecue, that we make at home. We try to not go out and spend money and stuff like that. But we're not rigid with it as far as what we do during that time, but we do try to unplug, be together, and incorporate those elements that draw our focus to the Lord.
Yeah. I love
That's
that.
good.
It's it's a challenge really in our society because again, like we've said, we wear busyness as a badge of honor in a lot of ways. Why do you think we often assume that busyness equals fruitfulness?
I think it's just what culture and society tells us. It tells us we're supposed to always be working, always be pressing, always be trying to achieve the next thing. And really, I think it's a lie of the enemy. We see when God, created everything, spoke into existence on the seventh day, what did he do? He rested.
Right.
And does the sovereign God of the universe who flung the stars to their places and hold them there, does he actually need rest? No, he doesn't need rest. He did that for our benefit to show us the value of rest and of delighting, saying, hey, this creation is good. This thing is good. It's very good. And delighting in these things and enjoying what you've done and taking that pause moment. And I think for us, it's valuable. And I think Satan just wants us to be overly busy because in those moments we're not worshiping, we're not delighting, we're not pausing and resting. I think it makes us more prone to sin, and to falling, and which is why I think we need to take these moments to pause, to rest, and to do these things that God really commanded us to do, of Sabbathing and taking these moments. It's not just because God's trying to keep us from achieving more. He's wanting us to be the best we can be and to be healthy. He does it for our benefit and ultimately for his glory.
Right.
Yeah. So Abraham Heschel wrote a really good book called Sabbath.
Yeah.
And he pointed out something actually from Aristotle, who we're not taking our theology from.
No.
But he said relaxation, even he said this, right? Relaxation is not an end, that it's for the sake of activity.
Yeah.
So now we're not looking at saying well, the goal is for me to relax. And anyone who has sat down and vegged out on TV understands that when you do that, it doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you ready for the next thing. It just occupies your time, and allows you to really just remove yourself from a specific thing. But what he was talking about, Abraham Heschel, is when he brought this up, is that resting in God is a day for the sake of life. It ushers you in the right direction. It gives God the space to strengthen you. And, for the next 6 days, it's a way that we collect our time and not let it slip through our fingers. And, it's a day for the sake of other days. So any amount, and whatever it looks like, I keep saying day because that's what it is for us. But any amount of other time, rest that you're able to set aside that's intentional toward your family and the Lord and what He's given you, that's what it does, is that it sets you up. It's not the end in itself, but it sets you up for the other 6 days to be productive. So that's the trap, is that, I lose a day, I lose this time, And so now it's gone and I haven't done anything with it. But you ask anybody who has worked, there's science done on like working a 60-hour work week versus a 40-hour work week.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, and Japan has done a lot of these, but you're actually more productive when you work the normal amount of hours instead of overworking yourself.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helps us from falling into that trap too, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And that, I think that there's so much that we could talk about with this. And when we look at the way that society has kind of trained us when it comes to these seasons of busyness, one of the things that I think about a lot is this idea of the tyranny of the urgent.
Yeah.
If we're honest, most Christians don't have a time problem. We all have the same amount of time available to us. We have an urgency problem. And I love the exercise that I know we've all, I'm sure, heard of, and I know that we've done several times as a staff, but where you draw out a grid, a 2x2 grid, and you have the urgent and the what's the other one? It's urgent and important. Yeah, thank you. So you have the urgent and important, the urgent but not important, the not important, not urgent, and the not important but urgent. And then you like put all of your things into one of those 4 boxes, all of your tasks for the day. And boy, that can be a really convicting process of realizing just how much of your day you spend on things that are urgent and not important.
If you want to look it up, that is the Eisenhower matrix.
Eisenhower matrix. I would have never guessed the Eisenhower matrix.
Thank you, people.
But I think that's just a really good practice to do. Because again, our lives become dictated by whatever is loudest instead of whatever matters the most, if we're honest. So have you ever reached the end of a week and realized that you spent almost no time on what mattered most and just kind of putting out fires instead of time on things that are truly important?
Never. Yeah, I think we all have. It's and it's not a good feeling. You don't feel like you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish in those moments. I think. I think that seeking to be really, really intentional with what matters is important. You don't want to get to the end of a week and like, oh man, like I spent a lot of time doing a lot of things and none of it actually mattered.
Right.
It's kind of a disheartening feeling.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of stuff that like can pop up that, like you said, culture, our own minds will tell us is important.
Yeah.
While you were talking, it kind of made me think back to whenever like someone loses a loved one in their family. Nothing gets so much more like open than your schedule whenever that happens.
Yeah.
And you really realize, man, none of what I've been doing is important right now.
Yeah.
I'd lost my father-in-law back in 21. And it was crazy because I was right in the middle of my workday whenever I got the call, hey, we got to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
And just to be able to drop everything in life and rush there to be with him in those moments, and then to experience the closeness as a family over the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Everything else paused. And it showed us like, man, there's a lot of stuff that we in our daily life had been considering as urgent.
Yeah.
And that's actually what kind of inspired our family dinners and our tradition on my wife's side of the family, because we started saying, this is really important to us, where we want to prioritize this time, because in the midst of our busy season and everything else going on, if we don't prioritize this, we will regret it so much in the future.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's moments like that where we see that cycle of the tyranny of the urgent break. And obviously we don't wish those situations on us or anyone. But you're right. It does kind of open your eyes to see what things are truly important versus just urgent. And there's any number of urgent things that seem to occupy our time, whether it be emails or notifications or work deadlines or practices or meetings or laundry or phone calls, things like that, versus the important things such as like prayer and time with the Lord and family dinners and investing in your marriage and parenting and and your church and your community, rest, deep friendships and discipling our kids. Like all of those things are important.
Yeah.
But sometimes those things we categorize in the not urgent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think as we're making decisions about how to spend our time and how to arrange our schedules as we enter the new school year? What are some ways that we can try to keep this balance between the urgent and the important? Because obviously there are some urgent things that we like. Laundry is a great example of laundry is one of those things that you just have to do.
You have to do it.
And if you don't do it, then I mean, I guess you can live. But that's how I lived in college for the most part, out of a laundry basket. Not a great way to be an adult, especially with kids in the home. So how can we balance these things that are urgent but not important versus the things that are important but not necessarily urgent or we don't deem as urgent? How can we find that good balance?
For me, I actually had a mentor that modeled this, and he openly would tell people about it, but what he would say is when you're going into a busy season and you're juggling all these things, intentionally plan the rest after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you've got all these chores at home and things that are going to happen, like not as much as you can, but do what you need to, and then be purposeful in your rest. Don't let anything distract you in that rest whenever you hit the end of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes for work as well. There's going to be times in ministry where we hit a busy season. Christmas, Easter, even the start of summertime, it gets really crazy for ministry.
Yeah.
And as long as we have that intentional season of rest where we know, hey, this is kind of a reward, so to speak, that we're working up to, and we're going to get to that after this busy season. And if everyone's in understanding and agreement of that, and they know that that is how we will honor and steward this time, I think it actually frees you up more to work hard in that busy season and then also be ready to truly enjoy that rest in the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a kid's book that my kids have and we read a lot that has really convicted me in a lot of ways. And it's weird to be convicted by a children's book, but it's called Mom Left Dirty Dishes in the Sink. And the whole book is about how at the beginning of the book, the mom was kind of like ignoring the kids' pleas to play because there were house chores to be done, dishes to be done, laundry to be folded. And by the end of the book, you see her make that turn where she leaves dirty dishes in the sink in order to spend time playing and engaging and pouring into her kids. And that, like I said, that book was really convicting to me because I'm like, how often do I see dirty dishes in the sink, so to speak, whatever those dirty dishes may actually be, and think to myself, that's important. That's urgent. I need to take care of that.
Yeah.
I can't have a lightsaber fight with you right now. I need to go and do this thing. And that's just in the home. That apply. I mean, you can apply that anywhere, but like my personality, and I think a lot of ours, is we have to take care of those dirty dishes. Yeah. We can't leave those in the sink. But I think there's great value in recognizing, hey, there are times where I can let the urgent drift to the side because there are other things that are more important.
Well, I think we can redefine what is urgent.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And I think we make things urgent that aren't urgent. Dishes are not urgent. Laundry, as long as you have something clean to wear, is not urgent. And I think probably most things, if we're really honest, we say this is urgent. I have to get this done. Most of it probably isn't urgent. Sure. I think the things that are tied to relationships are far more urgent. You know, our kids are going to remember the lightsaber fights. They're going to remember playing with the Legos or throwing the ball in the backyard. They're not going to remember, hey, were the dishes clean when I went to bed? And I'm in this season now where my daughter's entering high school next year. My son's entering middle school. Like, we have a lot more of our time with them at home is behind us and ahead of us. Mm-hmm. And how quickly that time goes away. And at this point, like, I would do anything to go back and just have more moments in time. Yeah. You know? And I wouldn't rush back to, man, I wish I had more time with clean laundry and clean dishes. Um, I would love to have another moment of when Samuel is 5 and we're doing some things we did then, or Hot Wheels, or when Charlotte was, at this age playing with her unicorns or whatever it is. Like, but I can't go back and have those moments.
Right.
But what I can do is maximize the moments that I have now.
Yeah.
Which is why after this podcast, I've taken off the rest of the week, and my kids start school next week, and we're just having some family time.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, I'm not gonna get these days back.
Sure.
I think the old saying with parenting is sometimes the days are really long, but the years are very short.
Mhm.
And I would encourage, you guys as parents of younger kids, man, don't miss those moments. Like those are the things that matter most. Like everything else will work itself out. Like work hard, get your stuff done, do what matters most. But a lot of what we make or define as urgent isn't urgent, but like time with our kids is urgent, and discipling them is urgent, teaching them what it means to love Jesus is urgent. Like these are the things that matter.
Sure.
And things are going to come up. Like we had a family time set aside this over the weekend, and there was a situation that came up that really was urgent that we as a family kind of had to handle and help with and do. And those moments do come up. But they shouldn't be the every moment.
Those are like emergent moments.
Those were like really, it was really like more of an emergency moment, and we had to handle that one. But we get our family time back, and my kids understand sometimes those moments, especially as a pastor, that they do come up. But man, like I intentionally took off and rest of the week because, like, to me, like, that's the emergency. My kids are getting older.
Sure.
They're going to be out of my house. I want to disciple them, love them. I want to show them what it looks like to rest. And so we're going to play Legos this afternoon. We're going to play ping pong. We're going to do all the things, and we're going to have snacky dinner. And, because these are the moments that I won't get back.
Right.
August 12th, 2026, it will be over tomorrow, and I'll never get it back.
Yeah.
And so to me, the most urgent things are my family, my walk with Christ, and then everything else falls. Like I'm going to lead the church well. I'm going to hopefully preach well on Sunday. I already have my message done for the week. I'm going to do all these things, pour into people. But who I am as a husband, a father, and just my personal walk with Christ, those are really the only things to me that are daily urgent.
Yeah.
Everything else may be important, it's not urgent.
Right.
And so I think redefining those things can be helpful for us.
Sure.
I would say a couple of years ago, me might not have felt comfortable taking off these couple of days. Like I'm piecing out. But I was like, man, like I see my kids aging. I'm like, man, I don't want to lose it. I think for me, there's a book I read, John Mark Comer. I read Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Great book.
And then Garden City, like in back-to-back months.
Both great.
And
books.
I think both those made me a lot more willing to just pause.
Sure.
And to sit back and to be like, man, like I got to reassess what really matters.
Yeah.
And like for me this week, what really matters is where things are with my family, and kind of taking those moments.
And I think that what allows us to truly break that cycle of urgency, the tyranny of the urgent, is proper margin in our lives.
Which is hard.
It's absolutely hard. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see tyranny of the urgent happening in so many of our lives, is because we fill it so much, or we allow it to be filled so much, that we don't have the margin to be able to take time away to truly rest or invest in our family. And we allow the time to slip through our fingers because we're so focused on all of these other things that we're trying to get done. When every minute is scheduled, people sometimes become interruptions instead of opportunities.
Yeah, that's good.
I would say with that, a good way to buy back some margin is to, in those like tasks and those things that you're having to keep up with on a daily, with doing the laundry, the dishes, even making food, as parents and as families, I think you can buy back a lot with inviting other people into those.
Sure.
When we look at the old Western days and everything there, all of those acts were actually communal acts. People would all get together and they'd have a strong community around just doing their laundry or caring for the animals. And so what my wife actually enjoyed a lot of her childhood was whenever her mom would allow her to cook and to bake, even at a very young age, getting to learn all those things. And now we as parents get to look back and go, okay, how do we incorporate our kids more into this
Sure.
so we can buy back that margin in that time of we're like actively discipling them, we're training them up in the world, and we're having good quality time.
And it's also a great way to have somebody else fold the socks instead of you.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
Like, hey kids, this is your task. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it develops more of a passion for those things in
Yeah,
them.
it does.
Like with my wife, she loves to garden. And so just seeing the excitement of my daughter just getting to hold the water hose while she's caring for that and doing that. And then in a moment's notice, it can turn into a water fight. Like
Sure.
that's fun. And that's just natural to buy back that
I like
time.
that. I love that.
And it can be even in like quote unquote non-productive ways. Like I have begun this summer inviting Carter whenever he can to mow the lawn with me.
Yeah.
And I'm actually mowing the lawn and he's pushing his little bubble mower right behind me.
Yep.
And he's not actually doing anything productive, but he feels like he's a part of what I'm doing in taking care of the house. And I have let him help me weed eat a little bit with my weed eater, and he thinks that's I know. Don't call CPS on me. he thinks it's really cool.
Also, this summer now, my son, well, we do the lawn together, and now he's mowing the lawn, and I'm doing weeding and edging. We're doing that together, and then we'll sit out there and have like a Sprite or an icy or something afterwards together in the heat, and kind of enjoy it. Yeah, it's been a fun kind of like because he's been out there with me as I'm doing it, and now it's gone from him being out there as I'm doing it to him actually doing it with me, which is kind of a fun transition.
Yeah.
Goes back to that buying the time. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. I think that's great. Why do you think we're so uncomfortable with empty space in our schedules? When we see margin in our lives, our tendency is to just fill it with other things, right? We almost function like liquid or gas where we want to fill whatever container we're in.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why are we so uncomfortable with that empty space?
I don't really think I'm uncomfortable with empty space. I love the idea of empty space. It's like I don't look at me filling it as like a discomfort. It just feels natural to say yes to every good opportunity.
Sure.
So I think for me, it's having to learn that like not every good opportunity is the best opportunity that I should be a part of.
Yeah.
So like there's something I really enjoy that I normally do in September that I said no to this year. Which was a rarity for me, but it's like, it's a good thing that I enjoy. And it would fit technically, but yet again, it goes back to having that margin. So for me, it's not a lack of comfort. It's just more of a knee-jerk reaction is if I see empty space and it's something good, I'm like, well, why wouldn't I put this good thing here? But is that good thing what's best for my walk with Christ, for my mental health, for my relationship with my wife, my kids, whatever it is?
Sure.
So I think a lot of the times when people are stuck in empty space, it has a lot of to do with introspection and trying to look into if they don't understand who they are and how they find peace, it can become really jarring for them because they don't know where to seek that out or where to find it. So that could lead to temptation. It could lead to just a trial within them of wrestling with who am I before the Lord? Who do I need to be? And even just finding out what brings me true joy or what is able to refill me and recharge me in this moment.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people, they'll wrestle back between like, are you introverted or extroverted? How do you recharge? And if people don't know that, it can be a really fearful spot and full of anxiety in that free and open space.
Sure.
Yeah. I think we live in an age of distraction.
Yeah.
Distraction has never been more readily available for us. And so I think to Austin, your point, like you don't ever need to sit alone with your thoughts and your identity and your insecurities and your past trauma and the things that you're worried about right now. You can distract yourself whenever you want.
Yeah.
And be distracted for as long as you want. So I think part of, the answer to your question, Tyler, for me is you've got to fill that time with something so that you're not, like Austin said, forced to sit with everything that makes you who you are and whatever lack you have there and whatever questions you have there that are unanswered.
It's interesting that I almost feel like, so there's the old adage of idle hands are the devil's playthings, right? We've all heard that. And there's some truth to that like you find yourself like being idle, you can be more prone to fall into temptation. However, I think that a lot of times, like I have heard that and taken that to the other extreme where I allow myself to not have any like stillness at all.
Yeah.
I've heard it where if the devil can't get you to fall, he'll just keep you busy.
Yeah.
So that's
We got two
like to echo
contrary
that
adages
point,
there.
it's going to be one way or the other. Like he's got two plays he's going to run on you.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I think rest and retreat are different.
That's very
We're not called to like retreat and like just do nothing with our lives, right? But we are called to rest. So I think looking at those, they are different things.
Yeah. And I think that looking at the example of Christ is a great way to go about that, because Jesus was, if you look at what the gospel describes as his life throughout his ministry, he was busy, but he was never hurried.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big distinction there. He carried tremendous responsibility.
Yeah.
He was always doing things and caring for people, but he did so without living with a frantic urgency.
We also see him like slipping away.
Absolutely.
Moments of peace and alone time.
Even from his disciples.
Yeah.
Going up on the mountain to
pray
and spend time with his Father, and then catching up with them on the water.
That's right.
And them all thinking he's a ghost.
And he didn't stop thinking about what his mission was in those moments.
Right.
While he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, that was one of the most stressful environments he would be in before the cross.
Yeah.
But he still did it in a private moment and tried to rest and recover his body for what was coming.
Yeah, that's good.
So what do you think there is the difference between being busy and being hurried?
I think being busy is a choice that you make for your life. Being hurried is allowing others' choices to impact you. Kind of them bringing you into that situation and hurrying you into something that you're willing to agree to, versus if you're staying busy yourself, you are actively choosing, this is what I'm doing, this is my calendar and my trajectory for my day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so like in a way you could say that like busyness doesn't have to be bad. It's where it becomes hurriedness and fall into that tyranny of the urgent, where it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
What do you think we can learn from the pace of Jesus's life and ministry?
I mean, you see him being intentional, especially after these moments surrounded by people, these big moments where he did step away, he did rest, he did pray. Like there seemed to be these natural rhythms for him. And I think for us to set in motion these natural rhythms of realizing we need moments to pause, to rest, to pray. I don't know about y'all, but after I've been on all Sunday morning, like I feel like I need time to like pause, to rest, to just kind of like breathe for a moment. As much as I love Sunday morning, I love being with our people. I love the pace of the morning and just all the things that it is, but I get to a Sunday afternoon, I'm like, man, I need to breathe for a minute. I need to pause. And, those moments of reflection, I think are really important. And we see Jesus doing that. And I think for us to do that as well is health for us. I think I think it's beneficial for us. It allows us to be a better version of ourselves that he created us to be. He created us to rest, to recover, and to do these things.
Like there's three distinct, there's obviously tons, but three distinct examples through Christ's ministry that stand out to me when thinking about the way that he controlled his pace and just busyness and hurriedness and all of these things. The first goes along with what you're saying with the feeding of the 5,000, and then immediately after going up onto the mountainside, right? And we've talked about that and the importance of taking that time to rest. Yeah. The second is whenever it's around Lazarus, right? And he was approached and said like, hey, your servant Lazarus, your friend is dying. He needs you to come. And Jesus said, wait. He didn't drop everything and say like, okay, I'm going right now. Yeah. He said, wait. And he waited 3 days and he waited until like he knew he was God. He knew that waiting would mean that he would come and Lazarus would have been dead for several days at this point. Yeah. And we see in other examples that he could have said, no, he's healed right now. He didn't have to go there. Yeah. But he said, wait. And so knowing when to say no, or when to say, I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. I think is also an important aspect of finding these balances. And then the third instance that I see is when Jesus was on his way to heal the centurion's daughter. He's pushing his way through the crowded street, and the woman with the bleeding disorder came up and touched his robe. And while he's on his way to heal this girl who was dying, obviously urgent thing, right? Emergency thing, he paused. And he said, "Hey, this is important. I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna pour into this woman here. I'm gonna highlight her faith. And I think that, so like knowing when to say wait, when to say no, knowing when to say I'm gonna pause what I'm doing and point my attention in this other direction and say yes in this moment, and then knowing when to take a moment to yourself and retreat. I think those are three really, really crucial examples of Christ that if we could find a way to appropriately apply those in our lives would be an absolute game changer. What are some ways that you guys have seen? Do you guys have any examples of moments like that from your own life, from your own ministry?
Yeah, I think back to some of the best advice I was given in ministry when I got to Trinity Baptist Church in Lake Charles by Pastor Steve James. He would always remind our staff to walk slowly through the crowd. And he would say, you're going to have things going on Sunday morning. They're going to feel like a big deal. You have to get done before service. You may feel like the whole thing is burning down. You got to walk slowly through the crowd, because you're going to have people that may need you to pray with them, to talk with them. And I think we see that regularly, where on Sunday morning where we may have something like, man, I got to get this done because service is about to start.
The countdown's going.
Yeah. And that person grabs you and they're like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And then they start sharing with you. Sometimes it's something ridiculous about their dog, trick they did or whatever. Sometimes it's like, hey, I got this diagnosis. Hey, this thing happened. Hey, there was this death. And, in those moments, what's more important, that task they get to or the person in front of you that you get to minister to? And it's the person.
Right.
I think I regularly get back to that advice that Pastor Steve James gave me about walk slowly through the crowd. Be with the people. The task isn't what's important. The people are what's important. And it really is all about that ministry aspect,
For sure.
Yeah.
That, especially for kids ministry, so many times when children enter into a new environment or they're trying to find their way in the classroom, it can be really intimidating for a lot of them. Some of them might be super shy. They might act out, or they might just even refuse to go into class. And numerous times that's where I know, like, if I'm going through my Sunday morning and I encounter that, if it's in the halls or it's in a classroom, I'm going to have to stop and talk to them, because it's just something I can't ignore. Like, this is someone I've been trusted to steward. So I have to rise to that. And a lot of times it means I'm going to go down on a knee and I'm going to talk to them on their level. I'm going to just get to know who they are first. And as soon as I can have a point of connection through that, that's going to give me so much more of an ability to minister to that student and to help them to learn more about Christ and to know they're not alone. Another thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about Lazarus and how Christ waited, a lot of that story is because God would be glorified more.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times if we are in a busy season and there's something we're holding on to, but we know it's not the right time, it can be so hard to just sit with that. But to allow for something, to have that time to go through the full process of being made into something new and then giving new life to whatever it is, whether it's an idea for ministry or even a relationship that you're trying to rekindle for the Lord. A lot of times it's just knowing and having that discernment. And Christ was close to the Lord throughout his entire ministry, and he is the Lord. We know all that he does. But that's what allowed him to have such clear discernment. So if we seek the Lord, ultimately that will give us discernment on when to bring new life to things.
That's good.
That's great. So as we enter this new school year, we're all going to be faced with decisions of how to spend our time, things to say yes to, things to say no to, and the danger, in my opinion, is not necessarily choosing bad things versus good things. It's allowing good things to become ultimate things. And when we look at that, like, there are good things that make terrible gods. So how do we know when a good thing has become too important in our lives and in our schedule.
Say when it removes glory from the Lord, whether that's personally or publicly. A lot of times our phones, they're one of the number one distractions for us. They keep us busy. They are tools that we can use, or they can become things that will tear us down very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at something like that in your life and you know that it's keeping you busy and separating you from the Lord, or it's not bringing glory to the Lord in the way that it's supposed to, that's ultimately where you can look at that idol and say, hey, this is just a tool of busyness at this point.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's just be willing to constantly reassess what's going on. And I think the older our kids have gotten, the more activities they have. I think that the bigger things get, the more consistently that they have things that they need to do when we're running people around. And so for us, it's like constantly assessing as a family, like, what are we going to do? What's our schedule going to look like? And even over the summer, we were having discussions about like what Megan's work schedule is going to be in the evenings this year. And so she's like, she's cut back what she's doing now, because we're like, man, if we're going to like have that family time, that rest time, be intentional, and still allow the kids to do these things, like something has to give.
Sure.
Otherwise, we're not going to have these moments. And so for us, it was just that looking at what are we prioritizing, not what's good, but what do we value most, and then that led us to, hey, she's cutting back some hours and days she's working and some of these things so that we can have that time set aside. Just because schedules change, and so for us, it's that constant reassessing.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm reminded of a Timothy Keller quote we've said on here before, but he said in his book, Every Good Endeavor, he said, everyone will be forgotten. Nothing we will do will make any difference, and all good endeavors, even the best, will come to naught unless there is God. And so his whole point was saying, idolatry, when you're talking about turning a good thing into the ultimate thing, that's where we draw the line is God's in it? Have we explored God's will in it?
Right.
Yeah.
And if we don't want to ask those questions, then I think for me, that's where I get in trouble.
Sure. Yeah. I'm reminded of, I mentioned this song a couple weeks ago when Ben and I were talking about some worship song lyrics, but You Mean More by Mitch Wong, one of the lines in there is, you mean more to me than miracles in ministry. And I've had times in my life where I've looked and realized that I've even allowed my ministry to become an idol in a lot of ways.
Easy, yeah.
Because that's an example of something that is a good thing that God has called me to do.
Yeah.
And I can justify like making that an ultimate thing because I'm like, oh, I'm doing this for the glory of God. And like, yeah, sure, I am.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if I'm doing that in a way that is sacrificing my own personal walk with the Lord, or the way that He has called me to pour into my relationship with my wife or disciple my kids, then I'm allowing a good thing to become an idol.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a dangerous, it's a dangerous game to play. But we see it so often in so many of our lives. We see examples of times where we allow good things to become ultimate things.
Yeah.
And man, we need to be careful with how we do that. What are some ways that you think we can keep Jesus at the center of our lives and of our schedule as we go through these busy seasons without necessarily, or without becoming like legalistic about it?
Yeah. I mean, it starts with us setting aside time daily to pray, to read His Word. I mean, you have to be intentional to set that aside. Like, man, if I'm not intentional in setting that aside, it's not going to happen.
Sure.
There's always things that need to be done. Charlotte had to be at a school thing yesterday at 6:15 in the morning. We were at things till 10 o'clock last night. Like, there's so many things that just, unfortunately right now for us, like, just have to be done. And if I'm not intentional to set aside that time, it's not going to happen. And how easy it would be to go days, weeks, months of like not spending time with God on an intentional level, And so like for me, it's setting aside, it's calendaring that time and prioritizing it because it is important. Like it's necessary for my life. If I'm going to be the husband, the father, the pastor, the friend, the neighbor, the man of God I'm called to be, I have to be setting aside this time to have moments of prayer, quiet time with God, reflecting on His Word, all those things. So for me, it's daily setting aside.
Yeah.
I would say in a very similar manner, like starting your day with the Lord and knowing that that is what you're going to do before you enter into whatever you have planned. And then not like resisting abiding in Him throughout the day. For me, if I'm getting ready to leave work, I'm going to go and say goodbye to my wife. Like that's my start of my day is I'm going to have a moment with my wife before we disconnect. But we know, hey, we can call, we can text, we can reconnect at any moment throughout the day.
Sure.
And then I would even say if you want to grow deeper in your marriage, same thing with if you're wanting to grow deeper with the Lord, spend time in the evening before you end your day.
Sure.
That way it's kind of all sandwiched together and it helps you to grow a good relationship.
Sure.
But I would hope that I would have a good relationship with the Lord, even as to my wife, as I would be doing that. So
yeah. And I think something you guys both kind of hit at there is making sure that the things that are the most important in the things that involve our own walk with the Lord and our relationship with our wives and kids, those go in the cup first.
Yeah.
There's the old youth ministry illustration of like the you have the big jar and you put the ping pong balls in and then you put the gravel in and then you put the sand in. And like it all if you put the wrong things in first,
it doesn't all fit.
It doesn't all fit.
Yeah.
But if you put the right things in first, then you can make sure that all of the things that need to fit in there fit properly.
Exactly.
In the same way, like I think it's really easy for us to ask like, okay, what can we fit into our schedule?
Yeah.
And then we end up filling our schedule with things that are tangible, that seem urgent, and we neglect our time with the Lord. We neglect our time with our kids and things like that.
Yeah.
Instead, I think it's more important that we ask what should never come out of our schedules.
Yeah.
What are some things that we should make sure these are staples. These will always, every day, be a part of our schedule.
Yeah.
Never take these out. And then you begin to build your schedule around those things instead of, okay, where in my day can I fit my time with the Lord?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we often ask, right? Is okay, here's my schedule. Where can I fit my time?
Yeah.
And when we do that, it's going to be really easy for us to neglect it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with all of that in mind, as we're talking through priorities and making sure that we have these things that will never come out of our schedule, what are some what's some advice that we could give to help people as they're trying to decide what those things are that should never come out of the schedule, as families are looking at all of the things that could take up their time, all of the things that they can say yes to. Yeah. How can we decide what is what are those ultimate things that are the most important?
Yeah.
And then how can we build our schedules from there?
I think it all centers around relationships. You know, not it's not about money or achievements. And focusing on that, what are the things that we can do, add to our calendar, keep our calendar, that will help us grow our relationship with God, with our families, and then with those around us. Yeah. And I think making our priorities around relationships and time is something that we'll never regret. You know, as somebody who does a lot of funerals, oftentimes and funerals with people, what they talk about is not here's achievements and money that they made and all these things. They talk about memories, moments, stories. And I think those are things that people want more of. And so, like for us, as we're going to continually be reassessing what we're doing, that's what we focus on is time with God, time with family, time with friends, and then everything else just kind of falls in place.
I would say, looking at it, you would want it to be something that reflects to the Lord. Yeah. So if you're looking at your schedule, anything that doesn't reflect to the Lord, that you can actually look at and say, yeah, this is going to bring life to others around me and to myself. But in excess of any of these, that doesn't reflect Christ, because we're not being a model of what He would do, where He would take that time, He would rest and recover. Yeah. So as long as you're reflecting Christ in your daily life, in your daily calendar, I think you're honoring God.
Yeah. I mean, I think a good, helpful question for me to ask is, you read scripture and it's very plain especially in the New Testament, that God cares about the kind of people we become.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at being good stewards and how that plays out through eternity. And so like maybe a good question is, hey, is this making me a better example of Christ? Is this because there are activities that don't directly glorify God.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't directly help anyone else. But they make me a better person.
Yeah.
And you just have to be careful, I think, because you can flip that on its head and you can do everything to boost your own ego, to heighten your own status. But it's the character traits. Is this building godly character traits in me is a good question I think to ask as well.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny, Ben, you haven't seen the notes that I've written for this this conversation, but that actually leads us to the kind of the closing challenge that I want to end with. Before the season gets away with us, I think it'd be good for us each to sit down with your spouse or with your family, or spend some time alone with the Lord and ask 3 questions. The first of which being, who do I want to become as a Christian? Who do I want to become by Christmas? Not what do I want to accomplish or what, but who do we want to become? Second question is, what rhythms will help us become those people? What rhythms do we need to include in our daily lives and in our family and our weekly habits to help us become and achieve that goal that we're setting? And then number 3 is, what needs to come off of our calendar to make more room? Instead of adding more and more things to it, look and say like, okay, what can I take away that to make sure that we have room to include these habits and keep them consistent to become the person that we need to be by Christmas. Set those goals. The goal isn't to fit Jesus into an already busy schedule. The goal is to build our lives around him.
Yeah.
If every moment of our lives are dictated by the urgent, it will eventually cause us to neglect what is eternal. And the things that matter the most, honestly, rarely feel urgent.
Yeah.
Reading scripture, praying, discipling our kids, loving our spouses well, being present with people, gathering with the church. Those are things that are important, but can feel less urgent. So changing our attitudes, changing our minds, and recognizing recognizing relationships as more urgent than tasks is key. Those things may not demand our attention, but they will determine who we become.
Yeah.
So as we head into this new season, don't just ask what has to get done. Ask, what kind of person is Jesus forming me to become? And then build your calendar around that answer. So we'll close with this. From 1 John chapter 2, verse 17, it says, "And the world with its lust is passing away, but the one who does the will of God remains forever." Thank you for joining us today at The Table. We hope this conversation has been meaningful to you and that you feel encouraged in your journey of faith. If you'd like to stay connected, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And be sure to join us in person. For more information about our Sunday service times, head to our website, fellowshipwest.com. If something from today's conversation resonates with you, share it with a friend or leave a comment or review, because everyone has a seat at the table. Until next time, remember, you are loved and there's always a place for you here. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.